Donk Nation, Jackson, Janet's greetings and welcome to your daily dose of Donk Nation. It's your boy, the Viking Donkey, bringing you some nonsensical Steelers talk. We're going to go intro list again this week because we're going to try to keep it short and sweet here, not much to talk about. So, what are things that maybe haven't been debated is who's had the best offseason in the AFC North? That's what we like to focus on here. So, that's what we're going to bring it up to. Of course, we talked about our Steelers moves that don't include the draft, where they are, who they are. So go back, check that one out if you don't remember. We'll look at the other teams. So that means Baltimore, Cincinnati, Cleveland here, what they lost and gained. And since we already talked about draft classes and who fits where, we're going to focus on all other acquisitions. So, free agent signings, player departures, trades. That's what we'll focus on this week. And we'll start at the team who I think has had the worst off season in the AFC North, and that has to be none other than the Cleveland Browns. I mean, losing a backup running back like Jerome Ford to the Commanders, David Njoku going to the Chargers, losing Wyatt Teller, Ethan Pochik, Joe Bitonio, Cam Robinson, Cornelius Lucas, Jack Conklin, like their top 6 offensive linemen. Now, a few of them maybe they'll be able to bring back because they haven't signed anywhere yet, but whole offensive line gone, and then you lose an interior guy like Shelby Harris, linebacker like Devin Bush, who's playing really good for you. Diabate goes away, and of course the trade of Myles Garrett, which was just one of the worst moves of the offseason, if you want to consider it, unless you're a huge fan of Jared Verse and what might come of that. That's what the Browns have lost in this offseason. Of course, it's not fair to just go there, so we have to talk about, of course, what they were willing to bring in this offseason. And when you go down to what the Cleveland Browns have brought in, you bring in a guy like Titus Howard, right? You trade with the Texans. Tevin Jenkins has played okay at guard. Zion Johnson, Elgin Jenkins. They brought in a bunch of average guys. Of course, they get to bring in Jared Verse in the trade. Good, solid player there. But when you look at the rest of the signings, I mean, who out there stands out to you guys? If there's someone I'm missing, go ahead and tell me that I'm absolutely crazy and I'm missing a big name in there. But I don't see it out there. I don't see additions, and the losses they have are just too much to really say they're anything but the worst. So then we'll go to the Cincinnati Bengals, and let's start with who the Bengals brought in this time. We'll do it backwards. I think they're the third best team in terms of the offseason they had in adding to this team. 2 veteran backups in Joe Flacco and Josh Johnson. Good kind of moves there. They bring in Dalton Risner, who could play okay at guard. They bring in Mafe. Maybe the biggest move they make is trading for Dexter Lawrence. I think they overpaid there, but they brought in one of the best interior linemen. That's a huge move with when you consider what they lost on the outside. They also signed Jonathan Allen. They, tried to make up for the losses they had, but I'm not sure even those 2 moves put together really make up for the loss of Trey Hendrickson, which is what we'll talk about here in a minute, being probably the biggest move. And they sign a big deal to Brian Cook. I'm not sure how I feel about that one. Of course, taking Kyle Duggar from the Steelers on a 1-year deal. So there's a little bit to like there in who they brought in for Cincinnati. But Cincinnati comes in third for a clear reason, and that's nothing other than look who they lost, and I'm just going to say their top 3 edge rushers, Trey Hendrickson, Joseph Asai, and Cam Sample, all gone. I guess you could say the rookie they had fits in there with the top 4 rotating. Then they lose Cam Taylor-Britt, Geno Stone. Their secondary wasn't good, but those 2 guys were the best players in that secondary. Of course, losing a couple offensive guards in Volson and Patrick. And Noah Fant, who I think is a little bit underrated, always has been everywhere he goes, is another guy who takes off and darts out of town. So when you look at what the Bengals brought in to what they lost, it really looks like they lost a lot more talent, specifically Trey Hendrickson. And specifically losing him in the division is what is absolutely killer to me. And you can't replace that. Now, let's just keep going back and forth. So now we'll go second place. I think this is where the Steelers fit in. We talked about it before. There's a couple big losses on that Steelers roster. But really, most of them were replaced. I mean, Gainwell quickly replaced. Calvin Austin, Scotty Miller quickly replaced on the receiving core. Hayward and Jonnu Smith were really pushes. And Simualu, pretty much the only guy who was a day one starter that they lost. James Pierre, of course, filled in nicely, but there's plenty of fill-ins there, and we've talked about it before. They come in second. I think the best offseason so far for the AFC North, excluding the draft, has to go to the Baltimore Ravens. You look at the losses they had. Keaton Mitchell, backup running back, big loss. Patrick Ricard, the fullback in the system actually used it as a big loss. Nothing's happened yet with DeAndre Hopkins, so who knows what's going on there. But losing Isaiah likely to the Giants, he was a big-time playmaker for them. Offensive line, they lose Falele, they lose Linderbaum. Those are big losses. Van Noy hasn't signed anywhere yet when we get to the defensive side on the edge rushers, but they lose Ojabu. But really, they didn't get after the quarterback last year, so who knows if those guys are really big-time losses. Darius Washington, you could argue that the way he committed penalties last year, losing him is actually a gain for the Ravens. And then when you get to what they added, this is why they get to be number one. Offensive linemen like John Simpson should come in and help solidify things a little bit. But it's the defensive side of the ball where they really get it going. I mean, my goodness gracious, there's not a whole lot of signings here. I think they re-signed like Calais Campbell, Awuzie re-signs. But more importantly, this is a team that didn't get after the quarterback last year, didn't have anything to do, but signs a guy who was in the division and has been almost defensive player of the year, has been talked about on that level, has been a multi-time Pro Bowl type of guy, and Trey Hendrickson, and being able to get him was ridiculous, and what they had to give up was nothing. The reason that you'd be like, well, isn't that close to what the Bengals did? No, the Bengals gave up a bunch to get Dexter Lawrence, huge interior player. I get it. But then the Bengals lose a Trey Hendrickson, which the Ravens didn't lose a player of that quality. And more importantly, they didn't have to give up anything to get a Trey Hendrickson. How the Bengals just let him walk for free and not even franchise tag to try to hold on was absolutely the worst move by the AFC North team in the whole offseason was the Trey Hendrickson move. A close second is the Myles Garrett move. That's why those two are the biggest losers here. And the Ravens getting that type of difference maker for free. I know it costs a lot of money, but in terms of anything outside of money, which the way the cap grows in the NFL right now, who cares? That's absolutely nuts. That's why they get the best offseason. If it wasn't for that, the Steelers definitely would have came in number one, but have to give it there. That's my ranking of the off seasons for the AFC North. Let me know what you think, where I went wrong, where I went right, and how you would rank these ones and who you thought was the best move of the off season for this division. We'll get into more Steelers talk in the coming dime. But now it's time for a shout-out. My shout-out's going to be to a Pittsburgh Pirate rookie is Merlin Valdez, who as of right now has home runs in 4 straight games. That's crazy. This kid's hitting the cover off the ball. Kind of fun to see. Love watching the Pirates be able to score lots of runs. Hopefully that's what's going to come for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Lots of points this season with a new change of regime, coaching staff, and getting it going. And now I'll let you know I'm the Viking Donkey. It's Viking_Donkey, Twitch or Twitter. Your daily dose of Donkey Ginger's awesome YouTube channel where you get this content. Thanks for tuning in. Jackson Janet, Steelers Nation. It's that time. Love y'all. Wave them if you got them. Here we go.